Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 119 of the Civil Gore podcast. I am your host, Tim.
And this is Brian.
And I'm Crystal.
What? Tim, did you hear that?
Who was that?
Hi.
That is our friend Crystal, and if you haven't guessed it, this is a collaboration episode entitled Civil Gore Nights In, because Crystal has an amazing podcast herself named Horror Nights In, and of course we're Civil Gore, so we decided it'd be fun on I guess this month has a theme, right, Crystal? There's a hashtag going around?
Well, I'm doing the hashtag all the horror, if that's what you're talking about.
Yes, right? Where everyone's like collaborating and stuff.
Yes, yeah, I actually just released my episode on Saturday, October 26th, it went out.
Nice. So we thought it would be fun to collaborate with one of the podcasts that I know Tim and I listen to, which is Horror Nights In. And so we figured we'd do we'd pick a fun movie to do, and we would just basically kind of wing it. I mean, we're going to do kind of like a mix of both formats. I think it'll be kind of fun. So, you know, the listeners who are new to listening to Civil Gore and new listeners to Horror Nights In will kind of get a little treat because they'll get a taste of both podcasts, basically.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, so Crystal, tell us a little bit about Horror Nights In, who you are, what the show's about, when it started, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So, hi, everyone. My name is Crystal. So, I run the podcast and the YouTube channel Horror Nights In. I've been into horror since I was about 8 years old, and I started my podcast October 2018. So I recently changed up my format when I hit the 1 year mark, and I'm super excited about that because I've branched out to a lot of other podcasts and guesting on other podcasts and also guests on my show. So I'm really excited about that because I love horror, and I've loved it for a very long time.
So when did you think of, like, you said, like, you know what, I love this genre, I love listening to other people talk about it, and I want to do my own podcast. So did you just come up with it and just go right into it, or did you like contemplate it for a while?
I remember I was cleaning my bedroom and I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about horror films. And it was a tiny little section of this one podcast I was listening to at the time. And I was like, people have podcasts about horror films? I thought people just made podcasts about politics. So then I kind of just started looking on iTunes podcasts, and all of these podcasts came up, and I was like, stop, are you serious? So then I started listening to a couple of them, and I was like, I can totally do this. This sounds like something that would be so much fun. So it took me about a day to figure out that I wanted to do it. And then it took a little bit of time to kind of get used to it, get the right equipment. I mean, to this day, like I said, I've had the podcast since October 13th of 2018, and I'm still kind of changing things up, making it interesting for myself. And it's been really fun. So I'm really happy that I decided to do it.
Nice. Yeah, I think you have to do that. I think you have to kind of always look to innovate, because I know Tim and I started. I mean, I guess I should let your audience know, too, how kind of we started. So we actually were big fans, both of us, for a podcast called Coaster Radio, which is actually a theme park podcast. And it's funny that you said, oh, my God, there's podcasts about horror. Well, that's exactly how I think both Tim and I felt we discovered Coaster Radio so many years ago. And they've been around now for 15 years, right, Tim, I think?
Yeah, it's crazy. They've been around longer than any other podcasts I know about.
Yeah, they've been around forever. And so what happened is, I guess after about, it was about 2015, right? So it was about 10 years into their podcast run, they decided to do these listener meetups. And they had a good online community already, but so when they did this listener meetup at Cedar Point, all their listeners came, and it was funny. The guys were talking about how they were joking on how, like, oh, we're gonna just get a couple of people there, and they're gonna be so disappointed, and so we had this kind of online group going, discussing the meetup, and so you knew there was gonna be a lot of fun people there. And Tim and I used to talk. We never met before, but we would talk in the chat rooms and the I guess the Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of our other friends at this point, who we didn't know, his name was Chris. He said, "Hey guys, let's do a day before the meetup. Who's ever going to be there early at the park?" So it ended up being me, my wife Julie, our friend Chris, and Tim and his brother Kevin. And so we all met up, and I'd say within 10 minutes, it felt like we'd known each other for about forever.
Forever.
Yeah. I mean, and we just started doing these. We had these already like inside jokes, and we were having the best time. And I guess at some point along that way, Tim and I found out that we both had a mutual love of horror. And we were just like, well, if we ever do a podcast, we have to do a horror movie podcast. And, we were like, yeah, that'll be great. And, we kind of kicked it around and didn't really do anything. And I think finally we just one year decided, like, you know what, it's time. We need to start getting this ready.
Yeah. When did you guys officially start? I feel like you were.
I think, what was it, 2017? I can't. It's funny. I can't remember. I know we're in our third season.
We're in our third year. This is our third year. So it was 2016.
Yeah, 2016.
I think it was like February of 2016, I believe.
Right. Yeah, so that's right. It was about a little less than a year after that meetup. So, yeah, and we kind of, I don't know about you, Crystal. I know you can maybe relate to this. We are so afraid to listen to our first episode.
You know what? I did a 1-year special, and I listened to the beginning of it, and I was cringing so bad, and I actually have it recorded. There's somewhere on my channel. It says like happy 1 year or something. And I was like, okay, that's enough. I'm not listening to any more of this.
One of these days, I'm going to pull a George Lucas, and I'm going to go back and retcon that entire first episode and like special edition it and just re-record the whole thing.
You should. And the funny thing is, we picked a movie. We're like, okay, we're going to go do a movie. Let's do a movie we both know really well. And we picked the original Halloween because it's both one of our favorites. And we're like, that's easy to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. But we forgot that we could actually edit. And we kind of did it almost like if we were recording it live. And it was just, yeah.
So as you guys already know, but someone in your audience, people in your audience, I know I am the only host of my podcast. And so I don't have a co-host unless I have like a guest. So I remember the first time I tried to sit down and record, it was so bad because I didn't have any notes. I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to sit here and do this. And it was so bad. I was like, I can't do this. So then I ended up making all those notes, and it helps me a little bit.
But you have Roxy sometimes comes on, though.
Yeah, right? She does. Yeah, she does. She's usually sleeping, though. Like, she's sleeping right now. So, for those of you who don't know, Roxy is my cat.
Yeah, Tim has a horror cat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't talk for the podcast now. No.
Yeah, he just kind of poses for Instagram. But actually, Crystal, that was one of the things I was going to say that's so impressive, I think, about your podcast is because now, like, Tim and I have done this for a while, and there are times when either one of us is just super tired or just off their game, but the other one can pick up the slack. When you do it, you're pretty much out there talking to everyone, and I think you do an amazing job of just taking it by the reins and going solo on that and doing just a fantastic job because you have a very engaging podcast, and it's great to hear all your opinions of the movies and your breakdowns and it's really good.
My breakdowns, like my actual breakdowns when I get mad. Well, thank you. Yeah. I've been listening to your guys' podcast for so long. Do you guys feel that when you talk to other either horror podcast fans or other horror like me or anyone else, do you feel like they're easier to talk to than like anybody else? You kind of touched on that a little bit. Like when you talk to somebody either on Twitter or whatever social media you have, or even as a guest, do you feel like you can talk to them and like relate to them better than like some of the people that you have that could even like be in your life currently? Do you ever feel that way?
Well, I do think the horror community is one of the best out there. I know a lot of people say that, but I think it's proven itself time and time again that everybody I talk to that's into horror, like they're just like the nicest people and the most outgoing. I actually find it harder, sometimes to talk to people who don't like horror because they look at you like you're crazy. I'm speaking mainly of my coworkers
Yeah.
who think it's bizarre that I run a horror podcast.
So for those who are listening and don't know, I do have a part-time job as well, and I just bartend on the weekends. And sometimes I'll have to say like, "Oh, I got to get home because I'm a guest on a podcast," and they'll look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny because podcasting is so big now. It's funny that people don't. You still get the question like, "Oh, what's a podcast?"
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's one thing like the older generation, like my parents, like they'll still say, "Oh, and how can I listen to you on it? What channel is it on?" And I'm like,
I agree, though. A lot of the people that I've met on Twitter are some of the nicest people. I'm actually gonna go visit one in Ohio. Because there's a horror convention over there that I've always wanted to go to, and she just so happens to be like 10 minutes away from the venue, so I'm super excited about that. So
That's awesome.
I was just curious because I know that you guys are going to the horror convention in March too, but that's in New Jersey, I think, right?
yeah, it's actually in Atlantic City, so it's not. It's kind of a fun spot to have, and that's a convention that I can't suggest high enough to go to if you get the chance.
You guys were gassing it up so hard. I was like, I'm trying to figure out when the Ohio convention or the Cincinnati one is, and then because if you guys get a table, like that's so awesome. I know I'm like going off on a tangent here, but I was just listening to your episode and I was like, oh my god, they have to get a table. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, we would love that. It's like we're just in the preliminary stages now. Like we're definitely going. It's not that, but it's like I've never done a table. I've gone to so many conventions, and both of us have really, and neither one of us has ever kind of done a table. I mean, the closest thing I did, I guess, is I was at when I used to work for a dental company. I was at like one of their booths at a trade show. But to me, that's not fun. That's all boring. It's like,
That's so funny. So when you guys go to these, does anybody ever recognize you? Do they? I guess I'm just trying to think. Like, have you ever had anybody come up to you and say, like, oh, my God, you're Tim and Brian from Civil Gore podcast? Has that ever happened to you before?
well, I mean, the only one, and I don't know if this is kind of a cheat, but with Felissa Rose, because
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. She recognized our shirts. Yeah, but not a lot of people know what we look like because we don't do YouTube videos. Probably most people are thankful for that. But anyway, we don't have. I mean, we don't have a lot of like YouTube presence, and Instagram is mostly pictures of other things, not of us. So I've never been recognized like in person, but the wearing the shirt, we got a lot of comments when we went to the horror convention.
They're probably like, I know what that is. Where have I seen that before? And then you guys start talking. They're like, wait, I know who you are.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that day of like someone to really just come up and say like, "Oh my God, I listened to that podcast," and like it's someone that we don't know,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like wondering. I'm like, is that because the girl I was talking? She has a podcast and she has a co-host. And she was like, yeah, I got recognized last year and it was crazy. And she's like, they'll probably recognize you too. I'm like, no, that's too weird. I can't. That's so weird.
It takes time it does take years for a podcast to gather a following and get going. And I mean, we've come a long way in just 3 years, but it did take 3 years to even get to the point where we were getting interviews and getting directors on and that kind of stuff. But if you keep going at it and you keep consistent, and I think the thing that Brian and I figured out early on was consistency is key. Putting out a show every week. When you're not putting out a show, make sure everybody knows why you're not putting out a show. And managing expectations that way. And I think as long as you do that, you start really building a core following. I don't think we've ever had a month where we've lost listeners. It's maybe sometimes the growth is slower than other times, but as long as you stay consistent, you will get there.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and Crystal, you do a lot because not only do you do I guess now you're doing bi-weekly, right? You do it once every other week.
Right now, I actually have like a whole bunch of episodes that I could put out, but I'm still doing them bi-weekly. I just have them already ready and edited just because you never know what could happen.
The lesson Tim and I have not learned yet.
No, we have not.
It's rough, but it's okay. And then my YouTube, I put out at least 2 videos a week. I try, so...
And that's huge. I think you'll get really big with the YouTube presence. That's something we lack. Seriously.
I like it. It's I don't know if it's easier or if it's harder. It's all as long as you have a passion for it, then it doesn't ever feel like work. So, like I did like 3 videos right before I jumped on here, but like it didn't feel like it was actually like work.
Well, you could tell though when you do it, you could see how you see how passionate you are about it, and I think that's what makes the podcast so appealing, your podcast and your YouTube, because you could tell that there's a true love of what you're doing. It's not. It never looks like you're laboring to do it. It's like, and that's a big key, because that's sometimes, I think people try and, I want to do this because this is the cool thing to do. But if they really don't love it, then why are you really doing it?
Yeah, well, I could say the same thing about you guys too. Like, your knowledge of film and movies is like intimidating. Just because you guys, like, every time I listen to your podcast, I'm like, oh, like I know the face, and I'll have to like Google it, but you guys are like right on it. Like, I'm like, oh my God, they know so much.
Well, Brian's the master of knowing all of the actors' names and what they appeared in beforehand. I'm not quite as good as he is, but he can like identify, that was the guy that was in the Bounty commercial from 1988.
Yeah, like, what did I recognize? I recognized the guy that was in Evil Bong 666. He was the
Yeah.
guy that got Judd Reinhold fired in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Like, that's the kind
how
of
do you do
weird
that?
superpower that I have.
And meanwhile, here I am surprised that Bradley Cooper shows up in a movie.
Oh my God, you guys always talk about Bradley Cooper and the Evil Bong 666. You have to do one on that movie. I've actually seen it. It's horrible, but
Yeah.
In the best
we needed
way
it for
possible.
the challenge. One more thing I was going to ask you, Crystal, if you feel the same way that we do about this, that whenever you're in a kind of a some kind of community, there tends to be competition. I don't feel that's way there. It's like that in the horror community, because I feel like everyone is always willing to help someone else out. Especially in terms of the podcasting, because I mean, I know we love to share other people's stuff and, make sure that we can, because we know, like, at some point everyone's going to need some kind of little boost or any kind of promotion or something. Do you feel that that's pretty much the way it is?
oh yeah, absolutely. I could message anybody in any of those groups that we're in. So we on Twitter, my podcast and the Civil Gore podcast, we are in like a horror family group that kind of, we help each other retweet and things like that. And I've never had a negative experience in that. Now, me personally, I'm very competitive. But anytime anybody ever messages me and asks me questions about, hey, like, what kind of equipment do you use? Like, I'm not going to be like a bitch and be like, oh, just go Google it. Like, I'm going to be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm always like, this is the equipment that I use. It's, like, I use a little bit more higher end, but like, I'm like, but this is what I started with. So don't think that you need to get this stuff right away. I said I literally downloaded Audacity, and I had my MacBook headphones, or my iPhone headphones, and I used the mic on there, and that's how I started. So I've never, thankfully, knock on wood, I've never had a negative experience with asking for help, for asking anybody to be on the show. It's so positive, and it's something that I guess I didn't really think about before. I kind of was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to make a podcast and a Twitter, and then whoever wants to like follow me can. But then you find that it's this entire community of people that will pretty much do anything they can to help you and answer any kind of questions, I've had a few like bigger podcasts too, like that will answer my questions, and they'll like Nightmare on Film Street, like they're so nice, like they retweet it, you know what I'm saying, like they're huge and they're so nice, and they always make sure that they even commented on a couple of things, so like that's really awesome, so
Yeah, no, and because I think you almost have to have that kind of mentality of that listen, everyone was started from the same spot. Like, no one just jumped into having instantly, I mean, unless you're a big celebrity or something, you're not jumping into 500,000 followers,
Correct, yeah. Mm-hmm. And, everybody always met, everyone's really nice, super humble. Have you guys have any pretty good experiences, I assume, too? Yeah, which we kind of covered a little bit, so.
Yeah, I mean, other than Tim getting biff blocked at the convention, I mean, I think that's pretty much the only negative that we had.
Oh, my God.
other than that, it really has been awesome because we just meet so many cool people that we talk to, and it's fun. It really is. It's like and we were part of the coaster community, and it's like we have this now other whole community that we're involved in, and it's just I couldn't ask for a better group of people to just interact with.
Before we move on, coaster, like roller coasters?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that was a thing. I used to play Roller Coaster Tycoon all the time.
Oh my God. So you would love this podcast because that's the stuff they talk about. We basically, if you listen to their podcast, you'd see so much. We joke that we rip everything off from them, but it's really the best homage we could give them because it's they basically, and they are always helping. I mean, I think it's now that we're such a good group of friends, even with the hosts as well. And Mike and EB who do the show, they have helped us. I can't even tell you how many. There was a time I think we spend about an hour and a half with Mike testing stuff out.
Yeah, testing Skype out, and those guys are great.
See, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like you never really meet anybody who's super negative, so that's cool. That's awesome. I'm glad I can. I'm glad I can relate to that as well.
Yeah, now Crystal's like downloading Coaster Radio. Okay.
I was like, coasters, like drink. I'm like, no, there's no way they talk about drink coasters.
There's probably an actual drink coaster podcast.
Yeah, I found their podcast on everything nowadays. There really is. We met someone at the Coaster Radio meetup. She does a podcast on dog grooming. So I mean, there's everything. Yeah.
By the way, I'm currently using a Coaster Radio coaster.
See, it could be. It's like a whole big. It's all a circle effect. It's all the same. There's YouTube niches for everything too. I stumbled across a YouTube video of somebody smelling and testing candles. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, I believe it.
I haven't had a whiff of that one yet. All right, I'll see myself out as all right. Tim's used to it, but Crystal's like, oh god.
So now me and Crystal are Crystal. Welcome to the new host of Civil Gore. Yeah. Brian has been fired.
It would fit because I'm in Pennsylvania.
Well, that's right. Yes, you still have that East Coast.
I'm still Pennsylvania.
North-south thing, yeah.
It could work.
I knew this was dangerous and risky for me. No. Okay.
So, should we talk about some stuff we've watched this week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get right into it, guys. Our first chop. All right. So, Crystal, what have you been watching this week that you can tell our listeners about?
Oh, God. I've been watching way too many movies. So, if you guys don't follow me on YouTube, I have been counting down the 7 scariest films I've ever watched. So, disclaimer, some of these films might not be scary to you, but they're scary to me. So, I watched pretty much every single one of them because I had to film the videos ahead of time just because, adulting in life. So this weekend I watched The Den, which is a found footage film about the dark web. I watched Megan is Missing, which is a found footage about 2 14-year-old girls who were abducted by a human trafficking thing.
Oh gosh.
Well, that's right. You're big on found footage. You love found footage. So.
And then I watched Paranormal Activity, which is also found footage. I watched The Conjuring. What else did I watch? The Sixth Sense, because I watched it when I was little. So it traumatized me a lot. And The Cell with Jennifer Lopez. That's
a crazy movie.
That also traumatized me because I watched the film when I was little. So I had to watch all of those films that traumatized me for about the last 20 years in like 3 days.
Yeah, I think that would be Salem's Lot for me. I'd have to put that in as films that traumatized me as a kid.
Roxy is here now, so if you hear a bell or meowing, that is just her. She is my other co-host, so she's awake now. So don't think that there's a cat in your room, guys.
There could be in Tim's, not mine.
There actually is one. Maui the horror cat is laying right underneath me, but he's not making any sound.
So that's what I've been watching. I've actually been wanting to watch other films, but and then I watched 3 from Hell because duh. Yeah. I wish I could watch other films. Like I really want to watch Haunt. I really want to watch the show that you guys or the the show that you guys were talking about, the 2-sentence horror stories or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. The 2-minute horror stories. Yeah.
And then I want to watch Tall Grass, but I'll get there.
Yeah, that 2-sentence horror story is cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I was wondering about it, and it's funny because I was listening to your guys' podcast earlier, and you guys like explained the format, and I was like, okay, now it makes sense, because I really thought they were just like, because it's the creepypasta, right? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it's basically just like it's basically modeled after the 2-sentence horror stories you see on creepypasta.
Okay, because I thought it was like literally like just 2 seconds of like the sentences, and I was like, why they wouldn't do that? So
A lot of production value for 2 seconds.
right, I could probably do that in iMovie in like a minute. So I'm glad you guys explained it. So
yeah, I've been watching a lot of old movies, and I'm talking old. Because, Brian, I've been trying to go through the movies on that top 1,000 horror movies list.
Oh, right.
And I've gotten through 60% of them, so I'm trying to knock out the last 40%. And I decided to go in chronological order. So I started with 1920.
Oh.
So I watched Der Golem from 1920.
Not the Limehouse Golem?
Not the Limehouse Golem. And but Brian, that's based on old Jewish folklore, right?
Yes.
The whole tale of the golem. So
yeah, because that other recent Golem movie is about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was obviously silent film, but this was the weirdest production because this thing, it was on Amazon Prime. Amazon doesn't care where the heck they get their movies from. So this version of it was apparently. It was Der Golem in full sound. And I'm like, oh, how did this work? Well, basically, I guess they got a bunch of film students to overdub it because they put like this heavy metal soundtrack to the back of it. And then they had like people like saying the lines instead of having the silent film cards come up with the text. They had people just like act it out in like really bad acting.
Oh
so it was kind of funny. But I mean, technically, I watched it, although I don't think it's the true, authentic version that they probably recommended. But so that was pretty funny. And then I watched The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, if you're a college basketball fan.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's from 1923, maybe
Disney one. I was like,
yeah, no, not the Disney version. This was the Lon Chaney version. He is phenomenal in this, by the way, but it's really, really good. I didn't really know the whole story of the Hunchback, so it was kind of interesting to see that for the first time. I never watched the Disney one. Shame on me. And then I watched another classic, The Phantom of the Opera from 1925. Another Lon Chaney, who was incredible in that one. So, and actually, Joshua watched that one with me, so he thought that was really cool. I was explaining to him how silent films worked, and there used to not be sound, and he was like, his mind was blown because he couldn't comprehend such a thing. So, yeah, I'm watching two now that are also silent because I haven't made my way out of the 20s. I'm clawing my way out of the 20s slowly.
Oh my god!
The Cat and the Canary. The Cat and the Canary is based off a popular stage play from the 20s that was kind of it's about these relatives that get together to divvy up the money from this inheritance, and it's kind of a dark comedy. There's some comedic elements to it, but it's also got like some haunted house trope stuff in it, like revolving bookcases and mysterious hands coming out of the walls and that kind of stuff. And then there's another one I'm watching called The Phantom Carriage. This thing is also from like 1920 or 1921, and it's about literally a phantom carriage where I guess the last person who dies for the year is the new driver of the phantom carriage. And so they used a lot of cool Pepper's Ghost looking effects where they like basically superimposed two pieces of film on each other to make it look like a transparent ghost carriage, which is pretty cool for the time. I mean, you gotta admit that. So. And I think the next one on my list, Brian, is that Haxan, Witchcraft Through the Ages that we covered in our Dismemberment. That one's coming up, so I'm going to watch that one. I signed up for a 14-day trial for the Criterion streaming channel because it's the only way I could watch all these old ones.
Oh, I was going to do that. Yeah, let me know if that's worth it.
Yes, I got it. It's a 14-day free trial, so I'm gonna try to like pack all the 1920s movies in the next 2 weeks, so I don't have to pay for it.
Tim's in for a fun week, isn't he?
Watching all these, I was like, "Are you like going to the library and like getting like film or something? Like, how are you finding?"
Well,
Tim's
what's
raiding
crazy?
the internet, what are the IFC archives?
Yeah, well, a lot of them are available. There's a streaming service called Canopy, Kanopy.
Oh, right, from
And,
the library.
Yeah, well, guess what? My library does not support Canopy, or they're not an affiliate, so I can't get any of the Canopy movies. But Brian, you should be able to easily in your area because you're up in New York.
Yeah, and Julie has an account, but the problem is it's connected to her job. So I don't know, like, I'm afraid to watch certain horror movies. Because as we all know, horror movies tend to have a lot of material that may not go great at a university. So I have
the 1920 ones don't, though.
Yeah, that's probably okay, but
those are probably safe.
Yeah.
Crazy. How long do you think that's going to take you to get through all those films?
Well, I've got about roughly 400 left, and
wow.
I like realistically.
That'll take Tim about 3 weeks. The way he
so at least 3 or 4 weeks. No, I'm planning on watching. I can probably knock out 5 a week. So however long that takes, 2 years maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. I can't do math.
Had to go on such a halt that I haven't even gone back to my Twilight Zone project. But this month is hard because with the horror challenge, I've been trying to watch so many things. So I mean, that's basically been preoccupying my time, is trying to get all our objectives. I don't know if you saw our horror challenge, Crystal, the way we did it this year, where there's actually certain objectives that have point values. So we're trying to I was trying to get all those, and now I'm actually at the phase. I have one final movie that's going to get all the points objectives at the end. I'm saving that for the last one. I have one more to sneak in there, but one of the ones I will say, and I'll probably go into more about this one next week when we do our full recap of the challenge. But that the Tigers Are Not Afraid movie. Oh, that just blew me away on how good that was, and all I've heard was how good it was. So I was expecting to be like a letdown because of all the hype. And it actually, didn't hype enough as far as I'm concerned. Wow. It was that good.
Yeah, I gotta watch that now. You've super hyped it for me.
Yeah, now I probably overhyped it to Tim. No, I don't think I could. I don't know. Did you see that one yet, Crystal?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Oh yeah, it's on Shudder. It's by Issa Lopez. And it's in there's subtitles, but it's so good. It's kind of like a horror fantasy. And I really don't want to go into too much of the plot just so you can really enjoy it, get immersed in like I did, because I basically read such a small synopsis on it. Just knew that it was, it was a little, supernatural mixed with a little fantasy element. So it was but oh my God, it's just so good. Like I'm actually, as soon as the challenge is over and I'm done with my objectives, I'm probably going to go back and watch it again just because it was that good. Of course, I watched some other ones like the Evil Bong 666. But I needed the objective. But then one that I discovered, and I thought I had seen all 80s horror movies, but the one that I discovered was The Wraith with Charlie Sheen and Sherilyn Fenn. It's about a kind of because we needed one of the things was a vehicle I needed, and this one features this really cool high-tech sports car basically, and it's like almost like a paranormal action adventure movie, but like so cheesy in the best way possible for an 80s movie. And I'm like, how did this movie go past me without me ever even like accidentally watching it? But it ended up now being like I absolutely loved it, and I'm like, wow, it's so cheesy and corny, and I love every second of it. So basically that's been what I've been watching. And then, of course, I caught up on Creepshow, which, again, just delivered another amazing episode.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that. I haven't been able to watch it yet either. It's on my list.
Oh, yeah,
it's on my list.
That you will love.
I know, everybody on Twitter is talking about it, and I'm like, okay, I gotta watch it. So it's on my list.
Yeah,
nice.
And you can get through them pretty quickly because each episode is like 40 minutes. I think the longest one is just under an hour, and I think that was the first one. I think it's the longest one. The rest of them are pretty much kind of come in around 45 minutes, I think. So,
guys, should we get to our dismemberment for this week?
I think so.
All right, so these are our Blu-ray releases. This is going to be a short week. Oh man, post-Halloween blues are on upon us because there's like nothing coming out. So these are the Blu-ray releases for the week of November 5th, 2019, our Discmemberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't cut off
All right, so first up from Lionsgate, we have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I still haven't had a chance to see. Have you guys seen this one yet?
Mm-mm. I read the books when I was little.
Same.
Yeah, me too.
Either. So
Oh,
we're
wow.
going to give a great sparkling review in this one, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's out for rent now. I mean, obviously, it's been out for rent actually for a while, but the Blu-ray's hitting this week. The synopsis, of course, is on Halloween 1968, reclusive Stella and her two friends meet a mysterious drifter, Ramon, and uncover a sinister notebook of stories. This is, of course, based on the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series of books that terrorized many a child way back in the... I don't know, when was that first published? I can't remember if it was the 80s, 90s. I know I had it growing up
Yeah, I
when
think
I was younger.
Yeah, I think it was around the 80s, somewhere, like possibly
Late 80s, maybe. Yeah.
88,
yeah.
maybe, possibly. I don't know.
So I
We
really
could be
want to
way
see
off.
that
See,
one.
yeah, Crystal was giving us props for our facts, and we're just like mumbling.
Yeah,
through
we're like,
it.
whatever,
Maybe 80
yeah.
something. I don't know.
We said actors and films. We didn't say release dates.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. We're not good on timing. Is it bad too that it's totally gonna go on the corny side here? But when Tim said Ramon, all I could, for some reason, what hit me was Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion when she's pretending. Yeah, but remember, I mean, I did too. But the part I was laughing when she's like, "Oh, Ramon," and she's pretending, and that's what came to my mind. So I don't know what's going on with me tonight, but that's
my
what popped
gosh.
into my head.
And it's all I invented Post-its.
Yeah.
I can't do her voice, but
Well, I don't think I did much of a job on it myself. Tim's like, "Oh my God, what? I don't have anything to add to this."
I don't either. I just know the book, when I read them when I was little, they were very scary. And the one that I remember the most was the one with she had the pimple or something on her face, and then she started scratching it and all the spiders came out, which apparently they did in the film, because I remember I was talking about it on my podcast when it first came out, or when it first hit theaters.
Oh, nice.
Is that where I got that from? Because I'm always thinking any kind of weird like mosquito bite. I instantly go to that it's a spider egg, and it's
Yeah,
dangerous.
maybe that's what it's from. And then I know I talked to some people, but they said it was really scary. But I don't want to like be mean, but they don't really watch a lot of horror. So I'm like, well, how scary was it really?
Yeah, you gotta go to the source sometimes and see what the credibility is. Nothing again. Yeah, I mean, if you're not used to horror movies, then yeah, I mean, I'm sure all three of us now have been extremely desensitized to a lot of.
Yeah.
stuff.
Sometimes I wish I was more scared of some of these.
Sometimes. I mean, you could seriously go watch. Well, no, I wouldn't even suggest watching it. The one film I said, I don't. If you have children, don't watch it. So.
No, just quite. It was the one with the two daughters.
Yeah, the two girls. Do not watch it. It'll be out later this week on my YouTube. But I felt like after I watched it, like I shouldn't have watched it, kind of thing. And I watched it on Hulu of all places. It's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. Don't watch it. Don't go look for it. I'm telling you, don't watch it.
Yeah, I couldn't find any extras on this one, so I don't know if there are any extras on this one or not. Or I don't know.
I bet you there'll be like a little like thing like from book to screen or something like that.
Yeah, I would think so. I didn't see any listed on Amazon. Next up from Screen Media. This one I'm really looking forward to. This is a documentary, Memory: The Origins of Alien, the untold origin story behind Ridley Scott's Alien, rooted in Greek and Egyptian mythologies, underground comics, the art of Francis Bacon, and the dark visions of Dan O'Bannon and H.R. Giger. A contemplation on the symbiotic collaborative process of movie making, the power of myth, and our collective unconscious.
Yeah.
So that sounds really
interesting.
cool. Yeah. Again, no extras on this one either. It's been even the releases that are out just don't give you anything. It's pretty bad.
I was just going to say, if they're like, Halloween's over, we're not going to give them anything else.
We're done. It's Christmas time. Hallmark Channel.
But did they forget that horror fans need Christmas gifts too? I mean,
I know.
Tell
I
you.
don't know. Shaun of the Dead 4K edition. I didn't write a whole lot about this because most of us have seen Shaun of the Dead many
Yes.
times. It's one of my favorite horror comedies. But no extras. This is just a 4K re-release. And, well, I say no extras. It may be the same extras that were on the original issue.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably is just a rehash of those.
But nothing to get too excited about unless you're really into 4K. And then finally, Brian, I didn't do a Brian's guest this week because there was only 4 movies. But this one is from Arrow. This is actually my pick of the week is going to be the Memory Origins of Alien documentary, I think, just because that's pretty cool. But this would probably be, in terms of extras, this would probably be our typical pick of the week. This one's called Apprentice to Murder from 1988. And it's about a fire and brimstone preacher who sees Satan everywhere, trains gullible young boy to detect evil, and the two of them commit several murders in the name of Jesus, based on a true story.
Yeah.
I don't know much at all about this movie other than it has Donald Sutherland, a Civil Gore favorite, in it. So I cannot speak as to whether he shows his ass in it or not. But but I will say, being at 1988, it's probably not as pretty an ass as it was in Don't Look Now back in the 70s. So fair warning.
Yes, hopefully you heard that episode, Crystal, so you don't think we're totally weirdos. I mean,
No, I recall. It's been a little bit since I listened to it, but I think I kind of remember because I think I was driving and I was like, wait, what did they just say?
Yeah.
Probably not the best to listen to in a car. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was fine. You guys are fine.
This one has a brand new 2K restorations, a new audio commentary by author and critic Brian Reisman, new video interview on religious horror cinema with Kat Ellinger again, who shows up all the time, author and editor-in-chief of Diabolique magazine. I think Kat Ellinger, I don't know if it's a guy or a gal, but they show up and they have a different title on every disc. Either they're a film historian, and one week they're a film scholar, and one week they're an author, and so this week they're the author and editor-in-chief of Diabolique magazine.
Oh, that's so weird that it changes like that.
New video interview with cinematographer Kelvin Pike. New video interview with makeup supervisor Robin Grantham, theatrical trailer, and reversible sleeve featuring original and newly commissioned artwork by Haunt Love. So that's all you get this week. So more trick than treat this week for our dismemberment.
Well, maybe they assumed that like you know what, we'll give them easy. They just finished the Civil Gore Horror Movie Challenge. They just watched a lot of movies. Let's give everyone a break.
Well, nobody's got any money after the previous week. I mean, we had 22 discs?
Right.
All right, guys. Well, let's get to our main feature. We are covering 3 from Hell, which is the last in the he's called that the Firefly trilogy, I think, of House of Thousand Corpses, Devil's Reject, and now 3 from Hell. Rob Zombie. I was looking forward to this because, as you know, Brian, I'm a Rob Zombie apologist. But I'm on the fence now because the last few Rob Zombie movies I've seen, I have not liked. I wasn't a big fan of 31. I wasn't a big fan of his Halloween movies, even though Cody is. Sorry, Cody. I don't know. I felt like he kind of lost his way. But then I went back this past week and watched House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects and absolutely loved them. So I was really curious to see what this one was going to be like, and I'll save my impressions for a little bit later on while we go through kind of the cast list and everything. So, of course, Sherry Moon Zombie is back as Baby. Bill Moseley is back as Otis Driftwood. Sid Haig back in a very abbreviated role as Captain Spaulding. The great Jeff Daniel Phillips as Warden Virgil Harper. Richard Brake as Winslow Foxworth Coltrane. Kevin Jackson as Gerard James. Tracy Lee as Judy Harper. Sylvia Jeffries as Heather Starship Galen, Amelia Rivera as Aquarius, Dee Wallace as Greta, Clint Howard as Mr. Baggy Britches. I love seeing Clint Howard in this. Danny Trejo as Rondo, and Barry Bostwick as the narrator. Synopsis. First there was House of a Thousand Corpses, then there was The Devil's Rejects. Now from writer-director Rob Zombie comes the next blood-soaked chapter in the most violent crime saga in history, 3 from Hell. So what did you guys think?
Well, first let's go through Crystal. We're gonna go to like a little bit of the Horror Nights In format here, and we're gonna go through. So for those who haven't heard Crystal show, she does a really cool little statistics in the beginning where she puts the Rotten Tomatoes score and the IMDb score, and then does a little synopsis on it. So we'll let her take over for a few minutes here and give us all our good stuff here.
So for those of you who don't know, I actually am a huge Rob Zombie fan. I feel that he can do no wrong.
She's going to battle Tim in this episode.
You were talking and I was like, we're gonna fight. Okay, so usually on my show I go through Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, give you a little synopsis, and then we just go right into the our opinion. So first up, Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 45% with 74% of the audience liking it. IMDb gave it a 5.8 out of 10. So usually go into a little bit of longer synopsis, but I'm just going to add a little bit to what Tim said. After being in prison for 10 years, the rejects are back. The film starts off with Otis escaping with the help of his half-brother Winslow. The two then devise a plan to get Baby out of prison and leave a bloody, gory trail behind them before making the decision to go to Mexico. There they run into Satan's army, who are led by Rondo's son, who is seeking revenge on his father's murderer, who is Otis. The film ends with a bloody gunfight, bow and arrow fight, and the three from hell coming out on top, and Satan's army literally going down in flames. So, that is all I got on my end until we get into the opinion section.
All right, so who wants to go first on this one? I'm curious.
I think Tim should go first. No,
You think I should go? I will go first if you want me to go first.
Yeah, let you go first.
All right. Well, going into this, I was extremely scared it was going to be really bad, because I have heard some reviews from people out on the internet that this was a terrible movie. And I went in and I was like, you know what? I'm going to hate this because I've already fallen kind of off the Rob Zombie bandwagon. I'm probably going to hate this. I went in with very low expectations. I will have to say it's still probably my least favorite of the three, but I did not hate it. I actually liked a lot of it. I was very pleasantly surprised that I liked it as much as I did. And probably because of the characters. I think the one flaw it has, and I think a lot of people would agree, is the lack of Captain Spaulding. And that's not Rob Zombie's fault.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sid Haig was in very poor health. He couldn't reprise his role the way Rob Zombie wanted him to in the movie. And so I don't lay that blame on anyone. I think the movie would have been a lot better with him in it. But given that, I think Richard Brake did a fantastic job kind of filling in that third character. And even though the movie starts off it was a little uneven for me, especially Sherry Moon's character. I think it kind of, everything started gelling towards the end, and I thought the last half of it was really phenomenal. So I would say, for me, again, like I said, my least favorite of the trilogy, but I actually really liked it.
Yeah, it was one point I was going to make before we go a little further. There's a great documentary on the disc that goes through the whole making of, and it's like it feels like it's feature length. And he does a whole sequence on what he had to do. Pretty much, he had to scramble to. This movie was almost shelved because of Sid Haig not being able to be a part of it. So it's pretty impressive what he did, we actually got to see this movie based on what it seems like he had to do at the last hour. Like, I think it was like a week before they were going to shoot. He had to make some tough decisions. So, but yeah, so that I just wanted to add that to the part where you were saying, Sid Haig might have made a difference. So,
yeah. So what'd you think, Crystal?
So I have to agree with you when you said that it was the least of your favorite out of the three, because I agree. But I personally thought the first act was awesome, with like the documentary style, with like the public being interviewed and the three themselves being kind of interviewed. The second act, like with the hostage dinner party, and breaking Baby out of jail, I thought that was so good. And the third act, when they were in Mexico, it kind of came off a little campy, a little cheesy for me. I feel like it really fell apart by the third act when they were in Mexico. I mean, it's still gritty, dirty. It had everything that Rob Zombie has put into House of a Thousand Corpses, as well as Devil's Rejects, the slide over transitions, mirror images. And also, of course, they have like the slow motion killing with the happy music in the background, which is super Rob Zombie when it comes to that. But I don't know. I thought the whole Mexico thing was I don't know. I didn't. Maybe I have to watch it again. I only watched it once. Usually I like to go through them twice. But it just wasn't vibing for me. It felt like it was two separate movies. Like, I don't know. It just came off super campy that they were in Mexico. Baby Firefly is still my favorite. She's definitely crazier. I know a lot of people made comments about her not liking her character because she was almost too crazy. Like, she was playing it up too much. But she also was in solitary confinement for 10 years. Like, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think they even make Otis even makes a comment that she's changed, and he's like, he basically says she is like freaking crazier than she used to be.
But I don't think that was a negative. Like, people were like, oh, I couldn't even take her seriously. I'm like, no, like, she was still to the core. She was still Baby Firefly, but she was just way crazier. Like, when during her parole hearing, she just like reminded me, remember when they had Charles Manson and his remember when he did like his last parole hearing right before he died? He was crazy. He was like jumping all over the place. So that's kind of what it reminded me of. But I thought her character was so good. I thought she went right back into who she was before. And mind you, again, Baby Firefly has been my favorite since House of Thousand Corpses. So I think I did like the audition of the half-brother. I did like that. I thought he melded in very well. You know who wasn't really scary to me, like he used to be, was Otis. I feel like he just wasn't as much of a badass as he used to be. Like, I remember watching House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects being terrified of Otis. Like, I think I said I was guesting on another podcast last year, and we were talking about this, and I said, if I ever saw Otis in a dark alley, I would just die on the spot because he's so scary and evil. And I feel like during this film, he kept saying like, oh, I'm Satan's, whatever, like, I'm here to do Satan's work, but he never really actually did it. Like, he just kept saying it. Like, he just wasn't a badass. He was just like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to drive at night. It's literally
he's 10 years older. I mean,
he's a geriatric Otis.
That's what I'm saying. And I get that they were older. I get that it was 10 years down the road. I understand that. But he wasn't as scary. Now, of course, if he, like, showed up in my apartment right now, I'd be scared. But I'm just saying, like, he was not the same crazy, scary guy that, like, cut off somebody. Well, he did cut off somebody's face, but like wore the dad's face in like House of Thousand Corpses. Like, he was terrifying in the first one and in the second one. This one, he was just like Grandpa Otis.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how I feel about it. And I was even thinking about it earlier. Was when it ended, I was like, did I really like it? I don't know if I did.
Yeah. So I kind of, it's funny. I think I have an amalgam of both things that you both said too. And so here's the thing. And it's funny. We all agree on one thing. This is definitely out of the three. This is my least. It goes in order of release for me. I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses by far is my favorite, followed by Devil's Rejects, and then Three from Hell. And now, what I thought was one of the cool things, and I'll go into a little bit more reasoning why. So, House of a Thousand Corpses was obviously different from the other two. It was like true horror, and then it became, Devil's Rejects was like this road film, but with the same characters that you loved, in almost like a different environment. They're out there. They're on the road. You're going to see what they're like out in the real world, not just confined to a little farmhouse kind of a thing. And then this one, kind of where I was hoping. Now, granted, I will say, just to skip ahead, I actually did enjoy the film. But, like anything, I mean, maybe because you're more critical of a franchise you love more than one that you don't care about. So maybe that's why I'm going to even nitpick on some of these things. But I was expecting it to be, like, either up it a notch or be maybe more of a mix of the first two, or just something completely different. And I felt like it was just Devil's Rejects light in some way.
Yes, that's a great point. And one thing I thought, Brian, to that point was, I was thinking of how Devil's Rejects kind of upped the game of House of a Thousand Corpses, because like you said, it was like everything was elevated. You had them actually out in the real world and kind of this road movie. But this one, I think the thing that brought it down was they were being chased. And I know that they were kind of under siege in Devil's Rejects, but this one they felt like they were running. I mean, they were running. They actually were running from the law, but it felt like they were on the defensive the entire time, and maybe that's why it wasn't as scary to me.
Yeah.
So even in Devil's Rejects, even though they were under siege, they still felt like they were kind of in control. Whereas in this one, I felt like they really were never in control. They barely survived Devil's Rejects. They barely got out of prison. And now they're just kind of on the run to the point they even end up having to go down to Mexico just to get away from everybody. And maybe that lessens the horror a little bit with this trio, because I feel like they're kind of running scared in a way.
Yeah, and one of the other things too, it's like if you look at it, the way that, and I think it was something Crystal said with the acts of the film, they're very similar to how obviously in Devil's Rejects, however, the first one was them kind of escaping and trying to come up with a plan and get to where they are, and then the second sequence, just like in this, was this big, long, almost like a hostage situation where they had people under their control, and they were torturing them and doing stuff. But it's still like, it's a sound, like Otis wasn't as scary as he was. Like a little, he seemed a little a little watered down, and I don't know if we're just used to it, or he just maybe like it was intentional, and the character was just 10 years later. I don't know, and I thought and it's just so, to me, I was like, I just wish it had something different. Now, while I enjoyed it because I enjoy the characters, and I think I'll agree with Crystal too. Is I was saying this, actually, I said this to Julie where I was watching. I said, you know what, Sherry Moon Zombie playing Baby, that was there's every certain actors have a role they were born to play. Oh my God, is she I didn't see anyone. I saw criticisms on it and I didn't get it. I thought I actually liked her, the way she evolved. And you're right about, she was in solitary confinement and she is crazy, and I thought that was a great element, that even the crazy people are like, what is wrong with her? She's too crazy for us, and I just sliced the guy's face off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, and right when, and it kind of, I was kind of thinking that it was kind of, the Mexico sequence was a little odd, but I'll tell you, as soon as she picked up, when she went and put on the headdress and was going around with a bow and arrow, I got so back into this movie, and I love that sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the part where she's crouched up in the corner.
Oh, it's so good, the slow motion.
Yeah, I mean, he has some great stuff in this movie. I think it's the pacing was a little too similar, and it didn't up it enough. And I guess, and there was, I don't know, and it's not like I didn't enjoy it, because I did enjoy watching it. I just think, and again, obviously we're all three big fans of this franchise and these characters, so we're going to be notice a lot more stuff than the average moviegoer. And I think an average moviegoer will just say, this thing is garbage. But we're invested in it, so we're going to look at it and, accept a lot of it for what it is, and because we love these characters. But we're still going to have our nitpicks, I should say. And I don't know if it's a true nitpick is the proper word, but criticisms,
Yeah, there was, it definitely was a lot gorier than, at least there was more blood versus the other ones. But I feel like there was no real, I get the plot, they were running away, but I guess something just felt like it was missing. I feel like there should have been something else than them just running to Mexico. I don't know. I just feel like Otis and Baby, and they're just such amazing characters in the horror world that I really wish that Rob Zombie would have done something a little bit more than what he did, than kind of just letting them run around getting chased and going to Mexico.
There's another thing I thought was kind of a missed opportunity, was early in the movie, Rob Zombie makes a point about the celebrity of these murderers. Like there was "Free the Three" slogans on shirts, and he was kind of talking about the celebrity of mass murder. And then he just never does anything with that. And I thought that would have been a perfect opportunity to make this movie different, in that now you come out and have Otis and Baby be like these celebrity type killers and do something. I don't know what you would do with that, but do something with it. But then he kind of just, other than that one guy recognizing her at one point, recognizing Baby at one point, there's not really a whole lot done with that premise, which I think he could have made a statement on how we glorify violence and glorify killers, and nothing ever really came of that. It was kind of a missed opportunity, I thought.
That would have been really cool. Like have them be running and somebody, a fan of theirs, recognize them, and then they go take them in or something, and then they end up killing the fan, like something like that.
Yeah.
And then having them make a comment and be like, oh, well, they always blame it on the video games or something. You know what I'm saying? Like something snarky that Rob Zombie could come up with in 4 seconds. I think that would have been way cooler.
Well, one of the things in the documentary is interesting. He said something along the lines of where he, one of the reasons why it took him a while to make this sequel. One of the reasons was that he didn't want to just throw out there like basically what the fans wanted, like and expected. He wanted to come up with something original, which I thought kind of funny because to me he came up with more so of what we already saw.
Right,
so it's like
exactly,
and especially the one callback line I loved, and it was maybe, and I might not have caught this if I hadn't just seen it because I did what Tim did. I watched all the 3 right in a row. Is the line where at the end when he's like F you, and he goes, and Otis just laughs again. He goes, they always say that, and he did that in Devil's Rejects too, when he was killing the one guy out by the ammo yard, and I was like, all right, that's kind of funny. They got that in there, and Otis just kind of cracks up like he's laughing at himself, like, yeah, they always say that. I was right.
There's also some mannerism that Baby does that she did in the first film. She takes off the warden's glasses and she puts them on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is what she did in the first film with the one guy. I can't remember the name. The guy that was on The Office, I think.
Yeah. Dwight Schrute, as Tim calls him all the
Yeah,
time.
I saw
He doesn't
Dwight
call
Schrute.
Tim never calls them by their actual actor's name.
But yeah, she did that. And there are just other things that she did too. I mean, she has her iconic laugh that she does, but it's just funny too, like the little comments that she makes. Like I was cracking up when after she like brutally stabbed that naked woman to death, and then she sees a granny and she goes, "Hey, granny."
Yeah.
That was a rough scene. The naked woman stabbing scene was rough. That was pretty.
Yeah.
That was pretty brutal.
But yeah, like that's right. That hey granny, that to me that's like classic Baby. That's exactly what I expected her to do.
In the first film, she's just like when she's dressed up and she's giving the show, and then she's sitting on the one actor's lap and she's just singing blah 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 blah, and then the one actress is like. She's like, "Don't touch him, you slut," or something. And she goes, "I'll cut your fucking tits off." Like, what? Like, where did that come from? Like, it's so good. I think it's perfect because psychopaths they think when they hear the word like murder and flower, it's all the same. So that's literally how Baby thinks. She's literally stabbing this woman to death, and then she sees an old lady, and she wants to say hi to her because she wants to be polite.
Yeah, it's like it's just some of her stuff. It's just her manner. Like see, it's funny. We both, all 3 of us, kind of had that thing. Like we wish it was elevated. I think she elevated perfectly. Out of all the characters, I think she elevated the best. And then that could have been because it was really, I mean, left to be her and Otis had to elevate. Mm-hmm. Otis didn't. I agree, but like Baby did. Oh, Otis elevated. I got that. I did. That was not intentional, and now I'm upset that it wasn't intentional because that was a really good one. But the puns that I missed. Wow, I can't even believe. Totally, it's comes out so organically now. I can't even control the puns. But but he didn't. And I think now nothing against Richard Brake, who I think I thought he was amazing in 31, and I think he had some tough shoes to fill because unfortunately he's going to be known first to everybody as Captain Spaulding's replacement, and that's not fair because he didn't feel that way. I mean, unless you know that he is at some level, but I tried to separate that, and I just like, okay, they're bringing a new character in, I get it. And I thought he was a really big bright spot because he's just so good. And, he's always trying to outdo Otis, and he's just not, and it's hilarious. There's like this little competition, and yet, but at the same time, when he realizes, he's like, all right, I'm not going to beat him, and he like would just sheepishly like give in. And I don't know, I just thought he had a good role.
There was two parts. Actually, I think Rob Zombie wanted to kind of poke a little bit of fun at how Baby really was the star, because if you remember when she's getting out of their van, she's like, don't you guys forget, like, I'm the star, because it's true. So I think Rob Zombie kind of wanted to play into that a little bit, because Baby Firefly was so popular from the first and the second movie. And there's another scene too when they're talking about Cutter, who is Captain Spaulding. And it actually made me tear up a little bit, and I don't think I've ever cried during a Rob Zombie movie. But the part where they're talking, and she gets very sentimental about him, and she's like, I wish he was here right now. And Otis makes a comment like, he lived better than like anybody else that I knew. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sad, because he's not here anymore. So that part, I was choked up a little bit.
Yeah, that was kind of hard to see when he quote unquote, I mean, obviously we're way into spoiler territory here. When he was killed off in the film, and it says, Captain Spaulding dead at 82, and it's so close to when it in real life it happened, and I'm just like, because Sid Haig was just so, I mean, everything he's done, he's all in no matter what it was, and he was so good. It's like, it's sad to think that like we're not going to get any more of him, and it
was just the timing of that scene was just like, wow, that's crazy that you could take that scene out of the film and it could be in real life and it would still be the same thing. Like, it would still hold the same value, just because he did live better than a lot of people on this planet. You know what I mean? So yeah. I did really like that part of it, and how it kind of just aged gracefully considering he did pass away. So I really appreciated that scene a lot.
So what'd you guys think of some of the other actors in here? I thought Jeff Daniel Phillips was fantastic as the warden, and with his mustache he reminded me so much of Powers Booth, who played Curly Bill in Tombstone. I couldn't shake that image out of my mind. I was like, oh my God, he looks just like Curly Bill. But I thought he was fantastic. And then Clint Howard was a total surprise. I didn't know he was in here, and I recognized him through the clown makeup immediately. Oh
my God, yeah, he's Clint Howard no matter what he wears.
I didn't even recognize him until I was watching something, and I'm like, oh, that's why they made it like this big like clown. Oh, okay, then I got it, because I was like, why is there this random clown in the middle of the film right now? And then I saw who it was, and I was like, okay, now it makes sense. Like, okay, I got it. So.
Yeah, he's great. And I thought, of course, one of our favorites on is Dee Wallace, who I thought was awesome.
Oh my God, she was so good.
Yeah, I mean, and in person, she is possibly one of the most warm and sweetest women you will ever meet. And it's so funny to see her be such a badass in this. I loved it.
She was like obsessed with Baby. That was great. She was a badass in this film. I don't think I've ever seen her do a character like that before. So I was like, what? I didn't even recognize her with those glasses.
Yeah, I mean, she has her moments in movies where she does that. Like, I think she had a great turn in The Frighteners, where she was a little crazy. And then in Red Christmas, she goes, have you seen that one, Crystal?
No, I saw her when she was in, like, Cujo and Critters. So that's in, like, E.T. So that's kind of the Dee Wallace that I know. So Yeah,
you need to watch Red Christmas this Christmas.
Yeah, definitely put that on your holiday list this year. Yeah. You will love that movie.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked her a lot. I didn't recognize her until I looked. There were a bunch of them in there that I didn't really recognize. I couldn't believe that he had the people that he had. I was like, wow, there's some really cool cameos in this film. So.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny. I actually kind of liked that they tied Danny Trejo's character back in, and when he and at first it took me a second. I'm like, oh, that's right, he was the bounty hunter in the last one, and that's funny that Otis remembers him, and he's just like, I remember you. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. It's like this is gonna be a. I didn't think it was gonna be that much of a plot point, but still, it was pretty cool the way they did that. And there was just I also liked the character. Oh my God, I forgot his name. The one that helps Baby at the end, and he helps them all.
Oh, I forget what his name is too.
Porto or something, I think is. And he figures I didn't actually put him in the. It's like the one guy I didn't put in here, but. because he was in 31, and I thought he was great in 31. He was really creepy and scary in that. But I loved his character in that. How he felt that he was such an outcast, and he bonded with them, at some level. And they actually had some endearing scenes, like when he's just sitting with baby at breakfast, kind of thing. It's like this movie had a lot of just fantastic moments. I think it's just I don't know if it's the pacing or the way the scenes were connected. I don't know. I can't figure out what was a little, there's a couple things that just made it off, but at the same time, there were so many great scenes and great performances that it's like there's no way I could say I didn't enjoy this movie. It's hard. It's hard to criticize a movie that you actually, that you actually, like, I didn't find myself not enjoying myself, I didn't find myself looking at my phone or or looking away or thinking of another movie. I mean, I did look at my phone once to check up an actor to see where I saw him from, but that was it.
I did. I really feel like sometimes Rob Zombie is very close to my heart, just from his music and his films. But sometimes I feel that he is so close to the mark and he just misses it by just a little bit. And I can never pinpoint exactly what it is. And I think he did great with the Halloween movies. But House of a Thousand Corpses was crazy. Devil's Rejects was amazing. But I just, sometimes when I watch his films, I feel like he just misses the mark sometimes. Like, he's so close. Like, it just needed something else to really put it over the top and put him in that, a higher tier when it comes to horror directors. That's how I feel personally about it. I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses is my favorite horror film. It will always be my favorite. So, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he's so close, yet so far.
Yeah, and after I saw that documentary, I mean, maybe that helped me forgive some of the little the points that were off on this, because it really did seem like he had a script for a while that included Captain Spaulding, and the fact, I mean, if you remember, the promotional material was the three Firefly, the one that we're used to, and then once they started filming, it switched along the way to Richard Brake's character, and he had to scramble to now make a story that made sense he had limited time, and he had to basically, you had to honor Sid Haig. He couldn't, he basically cut his role twice, the documentary said. Like, he basically cut it and then realized, even once he saw Sid Haig, that even then he didn't think he would be capable of doing even a reduced role. So that's why it ended up being as short as it was. And it's funny, it's sad, because you can kind of tell he's not the same, yet you could tell everything he gave for that little scene, though.
No, it was so good. That line was used in the trailer, and it was quoted so many times, and it's such a good line too. That whole scene is so great. But I agree, though. I think Richard Brake did a great job. I think he was really creepy, really gross. He fit in with the Fireflies perfectly. I could totally see him coming off as the half brother for sure. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's really. And I actually, maybe it's just because I wasn't keeping up with the news from the film, but I was confused as to why there was somebody on the cover that wasn't Sid Haig. And then as I started to look more into it, I was like, oh, he had to change it 3 times. So,
yeah, I think they tried to keep it kind of somewhat on the down low about it. I don't think they wanted to, because then the movie just has this, I mean, by the time we saw it, we knew obviously what had happened, but and we knew that his role was cut, but it was just, it's like they probably just didn't want that to distract from the film, and I'm sure Sid Haig didn't want it to either. He probably says, listen, don't mention it. It's just do what you need to get this out.
Yeah. I wish maybe, I don't know, maybe he maybe he should have made it earlier, but you never know what's going to happen to somebody. You never know.
Oh, right. No, you can't. I mean, look with Star Wars. I mean, the fact that with Carrie Fisher, you have to, they managed to use a whole bunch of footage, I guess, for the new one to get her in the story in some way. But I mean, I'm sure that that was not their original intent. She was supposed to be a major focus of the last Star Wars movie, but they couldn't. You sometimes have to work with what you have, and so it's and you don't know what's going to happen. It's like, but that's why I say you got to make these movies faster.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I don't think you should have waited that long. But I mean, you can never. I couldn't do what he did. I can't write like that. Oh, did he ever touch on like what the original script for Three from Hell was going to be? Did he ever delve into that? Say like this was the original story, and then this is what it ended up being. Anything?
I was listening to in the documentary. They didn't go into it too much because they basically it was they only had this one little sequence about it, and then they went on to like basically how they did a lot of the scenes. It's a great documentary. Definitely one of the best things on that disc is that cool like documentary. I mean, because like I said, I think it's almost feature length, but I think there's a commentary I believe on the Blu-ray, and I'm wondering if he'll go into that more, or it might be with some research we might be able to find more stuff. I'm sure it'll be out there somewhere. I'm sure someone has that information. I mean, I wonder at some level. It's funny though. He did do a good job of, I think it's like, as hard as this is to say. I mean, I guess if out of the three characters in the movie that we got to see, if there was one that made sense to eliminate when they did, it would be Captain Spaulding. If that makes sense, just because. Baby, there's no way you can touch her.
He had the most limited role in the other two movies too. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, in terms of like the killing stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, no.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it sucks because I was like, this is the movie that I wonder if they could have made him a big featured in if he was well enough. That would have been one of those things cool. You just never know. But yeah,
sucks because I feel like it could have been. I mean. Shit happens all the time. You can't predict what's going to happen to somebody. But I wonder what the film would have been if he had made it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah, it could have been the best one.
Correct. Yeah, it could have been better than The Devil's Rejects. And I know a lot of people love that film. So it's kind of just like, I wonder how Rob Zombie feels about that.
Maybe our next collaboration should be a fan fiction of the alternate universe of of this movie.
Well, Brian, what did you do for our beer pairing this week?
Okay, so since it was a very special episode, we're collaborating with our friend Crystal and Horror Nights In. I figured I would do a double beer pairing, and I try and be as clever as I can with the word pairing. So This was, I think, if I do say so myself, I think a pretty good double whammy here. So we have Halfway to Hell's and Devil in I IPA, both from Threes Brewing Company. So see, there's a play on not only the brewery but the beer as well. And at first I thought it was Threes Brewery, which is one of my favorite breweries in Brooklyn, but it was not. It was Three Threes. So, which makes sense because even for this collaboration, it's double everything, right? So, so the first one is the Halfway to Hell's. It's a 5.1%, and I'll read the description. It says, "If you're 555, then we're 666. This light, pale, traditional German lager focuses on the delicate flavors of German malt and lager yeast. A hint of malty sweetness rounds out the beer for a clean, crisp, and refreshing crusher. Prost," which I think means that's like a toast, right, in German, I think.
I have no idea. I'll have to ask Ken.
Yeah, that's right. We are our good friend Ken is a German expert, and he already crucified Tim for the last episode for mispronouncing stuff. So
he pretty much crucifies me for every episode.
I pronounce everything wrong.
He's like our fact checker.
I'm waiting. I pronounce everyone's name wrong. I try my best, but when I get on camera, especially on my YouTube, I go blank and I just say whatever. I'm waiting to see if I ever get to that top tier of YouTube fame. Someone's gonna make a compilation of me pronouncing everybody's name wrong. I'm waiting for it.
Have you listened to Tim's pronunciation?
I know, right?
I don't think you'll feel so bad.
Yeah, really.
Oh man.
So the next one is definitely takes the theming to the full extent, which is Devil in I IPA, and it's 6.66%. We had another beer that did that too, because it was devil themed. And that one says, make amends at 666% ABV. The devil is not for the superstitious. Hazy and brown in appearance with a sweet hint of roastiness. Devil is nothing like we brewed before. Crawling with tons of Simcoe and Amarillo and tickled with Mosaic and Citra. Those are my 2 favorite hops, by the way. Devil is sneakily complex, so sip inside and taste the devil in eye. And that's a limited seasonal release. So
Beers are so cool. I actually don't drink, but these are cool.
But you might hear these, right? Because you said you bartend.
Yeah,
right?
but see, we have a lot of we get a lot of beers from like a local brewery, so we have like pretty standard like Miller Lite, Amstel Light. But then when it comes to stuff like this, it's all the local places that are in like the area from where I bartend. So I've never heard any of these.
How far are you from the Manayunk one? Because that's one of my favorite breweries, actually.
Pretty far. I'm closer to like Philadelphia area, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is out. Yeah, this is a little outside of Philly, but it's definitely one of my favorites. If you guys ever get that one in, you should suggest it to.
Yeah, we're about
it's really good.
We're about like 50 minutes from Philly, so that's why we kind of. And there's a lot of different breweries from the city that I live in outside of where Philadelphia is. So anything weird or any like not weird, but any of like the special beers are usually just from like this 1 or 2 places. So
Gotcha.
All right, Brian. So we did decide to skip the triple threat this week. We're going to give you guys an extra week to figure out that brilliant one that Brian came up with last week, which is...
We did get one correct answer. Someone emailed
Yeah,
us.
we did. That's right. Yeah. So we'll give you an extra week on that one. We will reveal the answer next week. But we will do our Zabmondo.
Yes. So, Crystal, if you remember what we do is I basically scan through the book and we'll let you tell me when to stop this, or we'll give Tim a break. We won't put the pressure on him. So I'm basically flipping through this book, and when you say stop, I read the most horror thing, because it's 2, basically, when the flaps open up. So, but I try and pick the most horror one that applies. So you tell me when you're ready, and I'll start spinning this book here.
Oh my God, I'm scared. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So you tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So this one is only more horror themed because one of them involves a costume.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
That's perfect for Halloween.
Yeah, but okay, and I'm a little embarrassed to read this one, but I'm gonna do this one anyway. Okay, so we'll take turns. Okay, would you rather? It says, wake up nude and unharmed on a park bench and have no idea of how you got there, or expecting a costume party, dress as a giant banana for a black tie affair and have to stay the whole night.
Oh my God, I would totally dress in a banana suit regardless of whether if I knew if it wasn't a black tie or not.
Yeah, I would have to pick that too, just because my OCD and like I don't want to lay on a park bench fully clothed. So
I think that one's fairly easy. I will take a banana suit any day over being naked in public.
And wearing like a fancy dress or something. No thanks. I would be like, oh, I'm part of the show, guys. Like I would make it like a whole big thing.
Yeah. Singing telegram.
See, Crystal went the other way. She's like, forget it. I don't even care about my choice. I'm going as banana no matter what.
No matter what. Even if I knew that I hate dressing up. That's the worst. So I will 100%. I'll be like, oh, I thought this was a costume party. Be like, do you want to go change? Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's good. I'm banana all night. That's it.
Yeah, I don't want to be naked anywhere that's not in a shower or like my house or a significant other's house. Like I'm not trying to be naked outside. No thanks.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh, no, I think this was a unanimous one. But it was definitely the better one than the other one. I'll read the other one just to show you why I picked that one. The other one was, do a mini cheer whenever someone compliments you, or have to jump up and touch a door frame every time you go through a door.
Oh no, that's like OCD though. That's not nice for you. That sucks.
I know. Well, I do it. I was gonna say I pretty much do that
that's
anyway.
what I'm saying. Like I know that like a lot of people with OCD, like that could be triggering for them.
Yeah, no, I pretty much like if I see a door, I have to tap the top.
How many times do you get? I don't ever get complimented. I can do a mini cheer.
That's true.
How many times do you get complimented a day?
And like I would have no problem doing a mini cheer anyway. I'd be like, yeah.
I'd have to do it maybe like once a month.
I don't know about you guys, but I get complimented every day. No, I'm just kidding.
See, look, Tim. See, I told you we're. And she was giving us all the compliments in the beginning, but we're the ones that need to give the compliments.
She's like, "Oh, you kidding? I would never do that. I'd be exhausted."
Oh, right? I'd be so tired by the end of the day. Oh my god, I wouldn't. I can't even leave my house. So like, I'm just kidding.
But I think I definitely picked the right one though, because that was a good answer with we were all, and the best is we were all unanimous, but also the fact that like Crystal, you took it that one step later and just like went like you're not even like pretending the option. You're like you're gonna actually forcibly make yourself into a banana going into a dress up party.
If anybody invites me to their wedding, if they're listening now, I'm gonna come in a banana suit.
That is awesome.
Now, don't you wish, Tim, like it was Kevin's wedding like a couple of weeks ago, because we could have just tested that, say,
and
if Crystal would have actually.
Yeah, banana suits would have been readily available because it's Halloween.
That's true, and they're all theater people.
We totally could have crashed that with a banana.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would rather wear something comfortable. You could wear your pajamas under the pajama or the banana suit. You don't even have to wear anything nice. So perfect.
Oh, speaking of which, so this episode's releasing on Halloween. Is anybody dressing up? Because I am dressing up this year.
No, I am not dressing up this year. I have a skeleton shirt, but I think I might be live streaming. I don't know yet, though.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't have because no one did a party this year. My work, who usually does something, isn't even doing anything. They're doing some kind of like more of a fall festival thing, and so there's no costumes this year, so there really wasn't anything to do. Yeah, I haven't actually been able to dress up for anything in a while. It's kind of sad.
Well, my daughter's being in one of those inflatable dinosaurs.
Oh my
costumes.
god, yes, I love those. They're so funny.
Which are hilarious. So I'm dressing up as like I don't know what you call him, like a safari guy. Like I've got the safari hat and the like khaki shorts and I'm gonna and a bullwhip, and I'm gonna be like the safari guy that found the dinosaur that basically has to wrangle the dinosaur. So we're gonna play it up where like the dinosaur escaped, and I'm screaming and trying to get it back in the cage or whatever.
Are you Alan Grant?
It's kind of a weird mixture of like Alan Grant and some British hunt sportsman and Indiana Jones, I guess. I don't know what this costume is. It's some weird amalgamation of all these things, but apparently I'm a dinosaur wrangler.
I love that Tim invents like such an elaborate backstory for his costume.
It's amazing. That was so good. I am a British wrangler who found a dinosaur bone.
I'm a British dinosaur wrangler.
Yeah, I'm not wearing anything, and Crystal's is a banana. Tim's got a whole like fan fiction background.
Wait, you're not wearing anything, so you're gonna go camp out on a park
right?
bench.
Yeah, no thank you. Could you imagine?
No, I'm not wearing a costume, I should say.
You know what? That's a possibility, because where I live in like a city area, and there's a whole bunch of bars around me, so I'm going to laugh really hard if I see somebody naked on a park bench this weekend when I'm coming home. When I'm walking home from
You
work.
just go up to them and go, "Hey, you could have been a banana." Just saying.
Yeah. Yes, and you have to record that you saying that.
Yeah.
If that's the case, you have to record them saying that and put that on your YouTube channel.
Blur out if they're naked.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, you take it from an angle that doesn't reveal too much. But living in New York and being in the city very often, I think I probably have seen that.
Oh my god, it's funny. I used to work in Manhattan. The people there are nuts. I love them, but they're nuts.
Yeah, we took Tim there. Tim and Olivia came in, so it was fun. Like my wife and I, we decided to like get a hotel room with them and be like tourists for the weekend. It was kind of fun. So we all just went around, and I took Tim to like we were starving, so we went around to the bar to the worst pizza place ever. But you guys were so impressed. Tim's like, I love this. This is.
I thought we acclimated very well for non-New Yorkers.
Oh, you totally did. Yeah, Tim was. We gave Tim the true thing. We made him eat while walking. We took him to a terrible pizza place at 2 a.m. It was great.
Oh, it was awesome. I loved it. I love New York.
Yeah, if you don't eat when you walk, you don't eat. So that's pretty much what you have to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, guys. Well, Crystal, this was such a blast doing a joint podcast. That was so much fun.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. And
Anyway, we thank for being on hers too, because this is Civil Gore Nights In.
yeah,
this
this
is
is Civil Gore Nights In. This is a collab effort, so we can thank you, and you're welcome to everybody.
Yes, and hopefully this will be the first of many years down the road. We'll do this will be a fun Halloween treat.
We should do it every year.
That would be fun. And guys, definitely go check out Crystal's podcast because it's awesome. Horror Nights In. Go subscribe. Check out the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has great YouTube videos. She does. She has really good topics that she picks, so it's really cool. She basically go with that's the thing I wish we could do. We need to get into the YouTube game
You guys
eventually.
can do it. If I could do it, you could do it.
Do we dress as a banana though?
I was just gonna say all of my videos I'm in a banana costume though, so.
See, that's how she gains that appeal.
Oh.
Okay. Had to finish strong.
Ew, I just got that.
And with that, and on that note.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we will see you back here next week.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.